All right, Mekone turned 40. There was a throne claim, it looks like by Niflheim. Also, I like that name. Allow me to break the ice. Very nice. Throne of Fire, which is probably good. I don't think Niflheim gets a lot of fire magic, so that's probably useful. I think they get a mage off of that. We brought some whites in, and then we had a bunch of raiding, most of which is not interesting. I think this is the most interesting of the bunch. Yeah, so put a lot of PD in here. It's Bone Tribe. So, it's not the worst investment. And we're up, against a relatively unkitted She-Lord, just the Lion Pelt, which we've talked about. And yeah, we can kind of speed through this. We've seen stuff like this, but this is just mostly a demonstration of, sometimes you can get lucky and, with enough stuff and enough attacks. He's got an air shield on, so, the projectiles are mostly just doing friendly fire, and he's cleaning them up, but we do eventually manage to get hits through. Like, his defense remains pretty high throughout, but there's just so much stuff for him to cut through that his fatigue starts climbing, right? He doesn't have a lot of reinvigoration. He's not fatigue neutral. And so, this is one of the reasons that being fatigue neutral is a big deal, because as your fatigue starts to climb, you take penalties to attack and defense, which I don't think are actually shown like in the UI. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, as your fatigue climbs up, you're more likely to take hits. So this is just a ton of stuff for him to cut through. And then he got kind of unlucky in that, he took an affliction, right? His mist form is keeping him from taking too much damage, but the affliction that he took was battle fright, right? So it reduces his morale by a lot. And these guys don't actually have the best morale. So yeah, he runs, and yeah, it was actually like a decent investment for us. Otherwise, we captured stuff from him with no PD. He captured stuff from us with no PD. Just the normal stuff. And we finished our Palisades, uncontested actually, which I'm still just sort of stunned about. I thought for sure that, he would drop an army on it or a wipe or something. But yeah, we got the Palisade up. So I guess building the fort was the better strategy. Who knew? And then Tianchi was eliminated. I think they've been fighting either a 2v1 or a 3v1 for quite a while, actually. And so, yeah, they just weren't able to hold on. So, yeah, this is kind of, where things stand. It's not great. Like, it's still, most of our territory is under, TNN flags. But now that we have the fort up, we can, start to split out, more groups. We still don't have a ton. We're leaving, a few guys in the fort just in case. Probably want to roll out another group. Actually, maybe would have preferred to roll out another group this turn. I'm not sure. We also do want to do research, and generally, we're leading the Gigantes with our Polemarchs, who aren't the best researchers, considering how much upkeep they have, but they still have decent research, and we don't really have a research core per se. So we are bringing out one additional group, like pretty similar to kind of what we've seen. Now we're doubling up on the Polemarchs, using one to advance and cast spells and one to attack. Still lacking like an area of effect weapon. Would really like to get a Frostbrand, but we don't really have, we have no water income. We don't have a lot of water magic as Mekone, right? We have, I think, one guy, right? So this is our one water mage. Probably should get a few more of these basilisks for some site searching, but of course, it's kind of hard to site search your lands while they're under elven raiders. So we are doing some site searching. We've gotten some site searching in, and trying to mix it up, right? Send some raiding groups out to new provinces. This turn mostly raiding out. I would say, like, if you don't have a lot of provinces, you should probably focus more on trying to recapture provinces versus hanging out and trying to catch raiders. Well, there is something to be said for, area situations like this where he has really limited options in terms of like raiding, right? So his moves are going to be more predictable. But yeah, I just felt that I need more provinces. We just we're barely making any money right now. So yeah, most of these groups, we've talked about. This is like a little dicey. This is, again, our only, water mage, but we do want to do some site searching, right? So, we're going to try to double up. This is a pretty big group, Gigantes, and, we've got an Incinerate caster here, and this is one of our Archons, right? So he's Fire 3, and so, he's going to be able to bring himself up to Fire 4 and cast Incinerate more cheaply, so he should be able to get Incinerates out, more often than the E4s that we've been using. This guy is no slouch either, right? So, he's also going to do Phoenix power, and, so he's going to be about as effective as our E4s. So, between the 2 Incinerate casters, and the 10 Gigantes, hopefully this guy will be protected enough. We also gave him Coral Blade, just increases hit points a little bit. I think it's just, we probably got it from a luck event. I don't think we forged that. So yeah, hopefully it'll keep him safe, and we really need to do some site searching because we're not getting any water gems. So anyway, we're like, well, I would like to give this Polemarch that's going to be attacking an area of effect weapon because he's just not going to be able to connect with the elves with their high defense. We just don't have it. So maybe should have just set both of them to advance in spells for now, but we'll see. In terms of spells, we're still working on Evocation 4, but at least with Evocation 3, they'll be able to cast like Fireball, which is decent. The precision isn't fantastic, but hopefully it'll be good enough. And Magma Bolts as well is something the Polemarchs can cast, and definitely it deals a lot of damage. I do think that this is something that can be blocked by Air Shield. I'll have to double check on that, but it's a projectile, so Air Shield would be a bit of a problem there, but we really want to make it up. To 4 will be nice for Fire Cloud. Falling Fires at 5 will be really good. We've talked about that, but they at least have some things to cast because they're very unlikely, to seal the deal in melee. So I think that covers kind of, the counter rating groups. I think, we have one other. This is going with the cheapo Peltast option. I don't know. We'll see. Definitely just need more groups, and we do have a lot of Peltasts hanging around. Probably should start to push more of those out. Gonna lose some, to his thugs, but it's pretty unlikely that his thugs are just going to be patrolling in provinces, of mine that he currently owns. So probably could, use Peltast groups to take, provinces that are really close to forts and then maybe bring them home, because they're more likely to, run into thugs as they continue to try to make more predictable raids. Probably honestly should be using more of those groups, even though once they bump into his thugs, they'll die. Because partially just because I haven't really been using them too much, so he won't really be ready to respond to them, and once I use a bunch of those groups, then he'll probably change his raiding habits, and as more of my Peltast groups get knocked out, it's okay, then back off on using them. So anyway, that's the rating that we're doing. Hoping to catch an elf here. Recruitment wise, still pretty much the same. Fewer fewer Peltasts because we are really hurting on money. You see no mage recruitment here either, and I don't think. We're not actually upgrading this fort yet. Again, money issues. However, we are recruiting shamans, lizard shamans. They're going to be really useful in terms of if he brings out foul vapors, and they're just good casters anyway. They're going to get us into nature and astral, which we don't really have as Mekone. And they're pretty good value in terms of researchers as well, right? The upkeep to research ratio is actually not too much better. In fact, it's even a little worse, I think. Well, these guys are only research 7. So slightly better, right, than these guys that we've been kind of using for research. But these are just more useful mages. These are also really useful mages in combat, whereas these guys, you can use them in combat, and they are giants, so that is nice. And they are priests, and I don't think, these guys are sacred but not priests. But anyway, yeah, I would much rather have these lizard shamans in combat than these mages. So yeah, planning on using these guys to do a bunch of researching. Well, okay, maybe not a bunch of more researching than we currently have. So yeah, and then I think scout wise, yeah, we don't really have a whole lot going on. Yeah, I think we have this guy just hanging out, hoping to catch, whatever force recaptures this from some undead, just to see like what Agartha's doing or like what Niflheim's doing maybe. And yeah, starting to push this scout. You kind of saw like some of Russ's territory. We see Abyssia here and some Archocephali. Definitely interested in. Archocephali is not currently one of our neighbors, but we know that they, border TNN, and there's somebody that we're trying to convince to come in against TNN, and it would be useful to know, like, exactly, like, who are their other neighbors, who are they likely to be fighting, how big are they, there's somebody that we're interested in, and just trying to figure out, like, I didn't know Abyssia was even over here, so that is good to know. And then we found Mekone. Don't really know anything about them or what they're doing, but yeah, just sort of like trying to figure out like, who's alive, who's big, where are people, very slowly, because we don't have a ton of scouts. So yeah, I think that covers turn 40. All right, Mekone turned 41. We finished research, evocation 4, moving on to 5, as we've discussed. Dire Portent, always a good sign. So this is Archocephali, and I think it's Stellar Focus. It's the astral one. It's just 5 astral pearls a turn. It's not the end of the world. It even says it's kind of insults it in the message. So yeah, not there could be much worse. And then there is a bunch of rating, mostly not interesting. But this is sort of. Right, this is the downside. This is the same province, right, that, we put a bunch of Bone Tribe into. I hope some of this was from an event, but probably not with the way that I've been playing this game. I can't actually remember, but so, this is where we turned around to She-Lord, last turn, and of course, here's a new one with additional kitting. And this is the problem, right, of the PD is, unless you're supporting it, unless you're backing it up with stuff, it just kind of sits there, and people can know, like, what they're going to be up against, and, they can kit something up that's actually going to be able to take it out. He does take a hit, like maybe 1 or 2 hits here, but, and fatigue is still an issue for these guys. I'd say, like, I think Earth is a little tough for TNN, but probably like the girdle would be good, providing a little bit of extra reinvigoration. Obviously, like putting it on the bless is really nice, for thugs. It definitely seems like his bless is more focused on his sacreds, and I mean, we've talked about his bless before. Like it's it's pretty solid. Like it does work, but it does cause a bit of issues here, in terms of like how much fatigue this guy is stacking up, right? Like he's up to 81, so this is still kind of dangerous, but with his extra attack from the Dancing Trident, and the Frost Brand, like clearing stuff out, like this is a pretty substantial amount of like a pretty scary PD type, and he's able to clean it out, so we lose this, which is unfortunate. Otherwise, it pretty much goes exactly the same. I forgot to put PD here, which is like fine, like it's whatever. And then we got pinged. I think, this is the palisade that we just constructed, so that's a little concerning. But otherwise, like our Peltasts march on. They can take out 1 PD, no problem. So that's definitely working out. And then of course, he takes no PD. We take no PD. We take no PD. He takes this is the bunch of PD. Then we take no PD. And then there was a farmer who's been performing blood sacrifices, and then there was a battle because of this. So instead of catching an elf, we catch, just this peasant who's been messing with demonic forces and the storm demon that he summoned. Luckily, the storm demon looks like, he's just going to fly in, which is actually a little unusual. Normally they have like this ranged, like range 40. It's really long range, this ranged lightning attack. Which would have been, kind of nasty. Luckily, like, we're already expecting, a bunch of lightning problems. So our Polemark is, definitely set up to deal with this. But, our other guys, definitely, you can see, like, one of them got stunned, like, immediately. So if the Storm Demon had decided to, throw lightning instead, we might have lost some guys. But, yeah, now the Peasant runs. So, yeah, luckily, no issues with that Storm Demon, but that could have been bad. And then TNN also gets attacked by some Spine Devils on their capital. They probably also took Misfortune and or Turmoil. And then, I think that was, then we found some nature gems, so that's nice. And then, another Bane Venom Charm running around, or maybe the same Bane Venom Charm, like, who knows, maybe our ally, maybe an enemy, maybe a neutral. Don't like seeing this message. This, unfortunately, at least it's our Peltast group, but we do actually have, units here. I don't think our commander didn't get diseased. Let's see if anybody, so, one unit got diseased. This is almost assuredly, right, because of that Bane Venom Charm. So anyway, this is, what the current map looks like, what all those messages translate into. When there's a lot of raiding, it can be kind of hard to read from the messages. So, we gained ground, I think, this turn. Actually, probably the best way to do it is to just look at the province graph. So we gained a little bit of ground here, but not much. So anyway, if you're in a big raiding war, provinces graph is definitely like the easiest way to tell what the heck is going on. Like, are you getting the upper hand? It doesn't obviously tell you about whether you've, killed more raiders or lost more raiding groups, so it's not perfectly accurate, but it helps give you an idea, because sometimes even the map can be a little hard to read. Not that our raiding war is not that big yet, luckily, so not too much micro. So this turn, kind of switching it up a little bit more, right? We haven't site searched this province, so we're going to hang out and search here. We're going to hang out and search here. That's kind of, our plan is like, do some raiding, do some searching, right? Hoping to catch like counter raiders coming in, but also not just like waste our time. And that'll hopefully, keep our movement. We're also doing some searching up here. This is not a particularly useful search because, it gets us up to fire 2 here because we've already searched this before with an E4. But, this is a very valuable province, so it would be nice to hang on to this one. So it's probably worth, like, hanging out here. And then, of course, not hanging out here because no searching to be done. And then we're moving out another group. Another Polomark group. So, again, advance in spells, attack closest, trying to combo them up. We've got the Iron Warriors, right, which is one area of effect, like square. So this guy's going to be able to do, like, they're both going to get Iron Skin rather than each of them having to do Iron Skin. So that, the more one square buffs that you can, fit on your, like, groups, the better. It's a little more efficient. So still lacking in terms of the weapons. We are starting to work in like rings of regeneration, which we're having our Pretender Forge right now, which is not ideal. I think I fixed this. Really would want to forge, and I think we have the research, because we have construction 4, so would probably actually want to forge like a Thistle Mace, and then we can just hand that off to a Lizard Shaman, and then the Lizard Shaman can forge us Rings of Regeneration because you need to be Nature 2, and then our Pretender, can do other stuff, which is definitely like a more efficient use, of your Pretender. You want to, it's like when you're trying to use them to get you into other paths of magic and etc. Ideally, they like summon a commander in that path of magic, or do something to allow them to like offload a lot of the work, that other mages can do, so that they can do, stuff that only your Pretender can perform. But our Lizard Shaman is not idle, so he's doing arcane probing just at our fort province. That is, I would say, site searching your forts is generally a higher priority, at least in my mind, because any gems that you find there is sort of like guaranteed gem income. It's safe from raiding. So the like sites that you find under your forts, are kind of more valuable in a sense, just because they're safer. And definitely like forting a province that you make a ton of gem income out of is a strong consideration. But of course you have to find it first. So anyway, doing some arcane probing. Probably, again, like in terms of, handing off, that might be why I'm delaying forging the Thistle Mace, but it's like we have another Astral guy who could be doing that. Now, he's forging Pendants of Luck, which, I've talked about. They're not the worst items, but I think this was probably a mistake to have him continue to do this, but, you play and you learn. Doing some additional forging, so Star of the Heroes, that's a new one. Trying to figure out, because we don't have like the water income yet. So let's take a look at this. It's not like a fantastic item, but it does have like a bunch of attack, right? So it gives, a bunch of bonus attack and then additional attack if you're up against a shield, which both his sacreds and his thugs use shields. So, that's +6 attack for whoever's wielding it. It is expensive, but we have earth gems. So, and it's a very damaging weapon. So hopefully this is enough attack to, help our polemarchs actually like break through. Kind of curious. I don't actually know how much attack. Yeah, so their base weapon only gives them a bonus of 2 attack, right? So it's like attack 14, and we're going to be getting 6 from the star. So, this should be another 4, so it'll be like attack 18, give them a pearl, bring them up over 20, like at that point, and then it's like, okay, yeah, they should be able to connect with his thugs like decently often. So not a terrible idea, but yeah, it is a bit pricey. We're only getting 6 earth gems a turn, so we can't pump out too many of those. Yeah, maybe it would have been more efficient to just have both polemarchs casting advancing and casting spells, because they can definitely cast Incinerate as well. So, maybe we should have just focused a lot on Incinerate, at least until, we have seen him bring out like some fire plates and stuff like that. There are definitely items he can forge and things he can do to make Incinerate a lot less useful. So, you never want to lean completely on like one answer generally. But, maybe could have leaned on it a little bit more until we forced him, to bring out those responses, then, start forging like Star of Heroes and etc. But, not the worst option, definitely. And then, yeah, let's see. I think we have one more raider, just our prophet. Not sure about this one. It should work like against like minimal PD. Like we have him. He's a hero. But yeah, our prophet is kind of valuable. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like our bless isn't super strong, and we don't have sacreds that we need to bless, so like using our prophet more aggressively isn't the worst thing. But we don't have holy threes as Mekone, so he's kind of our only holy 3, the only person who can claim thrones other than our goddess. So, risking him like that, like, yeah, probably again would have just preferred to, throw out some peltasts. Although, we are using the peltasts for patrolling, and, with this, let's see here. Yeah, our fort did get pinged this turn, right? So, we're doing plenty of patrolling as well. And all those peltasts are patrolling, so it's like, yeah, on the one hand, would like to split off 15 or 20 peltasts, right, for a raiding group. On the other hand, like that's a big chunk of our peltasts, and we may need them to try to repulse an attack on this fort. So yeah, wasn't really. I was expecting the attack to come before the construction finished. He may just not have realized that we were building a fort here, but I don't know, at least for me, I feel like you have to respect if it's getting pinged. We have enough PD investment here, not as much, but enough that like, yeah, we do want it to be supported. So yeah, we're doing quite a bit of patrolling here. But yeah, in the good news department, the Caelian player let me know that he said he's going to be attacking 7 of TNN's provinces this turn. Yeah, which should be kind of interesting. Like, I'm not actually sure. I've talked before about how like it's kind of an awkward alliance, for him to be helping us out against TNN. That said, like he does like actually border him now. And I guess like, yeah, could have, we've like raided this now, but this also used to be a border for him. So possibly he was thinking about taking this one. But he can fly, like I think over one enemy province. I'm not actually sure. I should double check. Yeah, I don't actually play flyers very much, so I'm not as familiar with flyer movement. But they can move really far in their own territory, and then they get to ignore like terrain penalties. But I do think they take a penalty for flying through enemy territory, the same way that you get a penalty for moving through enemy territory. Like it's harder to do a 2-province move. If both provinces are enemy territories, it is still possible, but yeah, it's rare because it's a fairly significant penalty. But anyway, yeah, it's easier for him to jump deep into enemy territory. So, I mean, yeah, he could conceivably hit. I think he also controls this cave. So, you know, I mean, he may be looking at like something like, you know, this stuff down here. I don't know, that doesn't quite add up to 7. So he didn't really, yeah, he just said he's hitting 7 of Tiananmen's provinces. So that should be good news. He doesn't actually have a lot down here. Maybe he has a lot in this cave. Obviously, the corpse constructs are like, you know, useful chaff, but they don't fly. So, I mean, you know, he has like one group. These Spirehorn Warriors, I think we've talked about them a little bit. You know, they're not fantastic. They're not bad, but like 40, that kind of feels like roughly like one raiding group to me. Not that, again, like I don't really play Caelian a lot, but and maybe there's more here because, you know, the scout reports can fluctuate, but maybe there's less here. So yeah, I feel like usually you see groups of like, you know, 20 to 40 Spirehorns, and like that's, you know, a pretty solid raiding group. Like any less than 20, you're probably asking for trouble. Although TNN definitely doesn't seem to invest very heavily in PD. You know, I mean, we've mostly only seen in our territory where, you know, it's in flux, so it's very common to just leave one PD. But yeah, it doesn't really strike me as the kind of player to be doing like a lot of big PD dumps. So yeah, maybe he's planning on splitting this group more heavily and has a lot of raiders in this cave. He does kind of have a massive force on like our border. So yeah, not really sure what he's planning on doing with this, especially like the corpse constructs. Like they can pretty much just move here. So yeah, and then he has like, you know, more troops up here. This is just mainly area seraphs, it says. So these are just a bunch of mages, really. I'm pretty sure. Let's double check that. Pretenders of the World. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, no, they are. Area Seraphs. Yeah. And pretty strong casters, too, actually, like Air 2. You know, in a storm, they're going to be able to Thunderstrike. So, like, yeah, like a stack of, like, 30. Wow, it's not 30, but, I mean, it says it is mainly Area Seraphs. So, like, close to 30 Area Seraphs. That's pretty serious. That's way more than, like, a raiding force. So, I really have no idea. And it's way more than what you would use for site searching as well. So, not really sure like what this force is doing, and again, like, yeah, this seems kind of out of position. Yeah, he's not going to be able to fly down to, like, you know, TNN's territory. So yeah, we didn't really give me any more details, so not really sure, you know, what his plans are. But in terms of our plans, pretty much the same, right? Like a mix of site searching and you know, counter raiding. We're gonna, you know, send our peltasts onwards, and then yeah, right. We have this additional group that we've built, and, you know, put a ring regeneration on them. You know, so starting to improve the kitting. You know, talked at length about how we're still lacking, but, you know, we're working on that. And then, you know, we're doing the site searching, so hopefully this guy's gonna find us some water. We'll actually get some water income. Still not recruiting, you know, another basilisk yet, but yeah, definitely probably should have. But, you know, I mean, our pull and mark numbers are getting back up there, but we did lose a decent amount when we lost that big stack. So it is important, you know, to get more of those. And of course, like, TNN still has like his main stacks, so kind of every turn, you know, we're doing like plenty of patrolling, because we never know when we're going to get jumped by a bunch of elves. And, you know, his rating is heavy enough that, like, yeah, I mean, he could be hitting either of our forts. Well, we have 3 forts now. So anyway, he could be hitting any of our forts pretty much any turn. Yeah, and of course, like, yeah, our research is, yeah, especially pitiful this turn, probably because, you know, we're doing more patrolling on this. You know, ironically, it's a little more, it's harder to protect this PD now in some ways, because before we could just have everybody researching and they would, all the mages would engage in a battle. But now anybody that's researching will, you know, stay inside the fort, and they actually need to be patrolling. So in some ways, it's like harder to protect Fort PD, or like more expensive to protect Fort PD with mages. So anyway, yeah, our research is, oh man, just absolutely pitiful. But, you know, we're this is rather hopeful. You know, some conjuration. Yeah, for level 5, this is almost assuredly for the elementals. I think fire elementals would be pretty effective, you know, against TNN's stuff, right? Again, like no fire resistance. We can get, a few air elementals, and earth elementals would be, earth elementals are kind of meh, but, we can get them. We'll be able to do Howl if we build up enough lizard shamans. So, that's something. Conjuration 5 is not the worst thing. We would also like maybe eventually someday in an alternate universe to hit Conjuration 6 to get these cares. Because you can actually turn these into a commander, and they get blood path, blood and death. So it'd be a way to break us into blood. And it never hurts to have a little more death. We don't have a lot of death. Although, if we do have like Bone Tribe, in theory, eventually, maybe someday, again, in the future us category, maybe. So we don't really need the cares so much to break us into death. But yeah, getting like a little bit of, that small blood economy that I was talking about. Ironically, we do actually have a decent amount of blood slaves, just, because of, the sites, which we've talked about before, and they've kind of just built up. But, if we want, 2 a turn is not really enough to be doing much. So if we do want to build a small blood economy, it would definitely be based around having these cares, which is like, yeah, probably not going to happen. But, getting us up to 5 for the elementals will set us up, where it's like we can jump up to 6. There's other useful, diversity spells at 6. So, yeah, 6 would be useful for us for a variety of other reasons. So 5 is not the worst plan. At this research speed, this is all like, yeah, all dreams. So hopefully we'll get Evocation 5 before we die. But yeah, I think that covers it. Let's see, scouting wise, continuing like same kind of stuff. We are trying to push our scout like a little bit deeper, especially because we're anticipating to see like some Caelian attacks, right? So it's like there's a pretty good likelihood that he's going to jump on Marverni, especially because he'll be able to draw income from it. And, as a capital, like, that's a decent amount of income. And, of course, denying income to TNN. Anyway, this would be a good raid to make, and it's bordering. So kind of expecting him to raid here. So going to move deeper in, to hopefully catch, like, some more action and kind of, how Caelian is planning on attacking TNN and what they're using. Otherwise, leaving, scouts in place on top of all the forts, trying to keep an eye on the elves as much as possible. And then, yeah, just trying to kind of assess like, okay, cool, here's Mekone, here's Abyssia, like what are they doing? It looks like Abyssia ate Satis, so that's kind of interesting. So we know that Abyssia is a 2 capital nation. So anyway, trying to pick up a little bit of intelligence just on the world at large. Probably not going to be relevant for us, but yeah, I do think scouting's important. Still trying to scout even when we're under a lot of pressure. So anyway, yeah, I think that covers turn 41. All right, Mekone turned 42. So I forgot to mention last turn, but we're distilling gold. So I think this is fire gems, 414. Like not a fantastic result. I'm always a little sad doing this. And it's probably not the most efficient way. You want like a really high level caster. We probably could be taking advantage of that alteration site, which we are not currently. So if we live long enough, I would like to do a little testing. We do desperately need gold. So, yeah, it is what it is. Otherwise, we can see that, things have not gone exactly to plan, I guess, or maybe they have. So yeah, we'll talk about some of this business in a second. We're doing some arcane probing. So we found a painted crypt on, I think this might be 2 gems. I have to double check that. But yeah, this is on our fort, which is really nice because, we're getting raided a lot, but this, can't get raided. You'd actually have to take the fort to take that. And then there was a magic phase battle. So yeah, we've got a She-Lord airdropping in, pretty kitted out, right? And so we talked a little bit about how TNN is starting to do stuff to help himself out against Incinerate, and so yeah, this fire plate, and I don't think this. Oh, nice, yeah, this also gives fire resistance. So yeah, so he's got a total of 10, and then he should be able to give himself 5 more from his spell casting, and then yeah, he's got frost brands. So yeah, pretty kitted out, and this is against one of our bigger groups, right? This is our site searchers. We've got 10 Gigantes. So we'll see. We definitely were leaning on Incinerate for this group. So yeah, this could go badly. Pretty normal stuff. I think he cast Flight on himself. So yeah, probably looking to fly to the back, which could be bad news because we don't have a ton of bodyguards back there. Yeah, so air shield, so he doesn't have to worry about projectiles, mist form, his bless. Now he's doing personal regeneration, which of course that's what the gems are for. He's got 2 gems now, so because it's a magic phase attack, so he's covered if there's a regular phase battle. But it's a long script. And these guys cast more slowly, right? The spell singer, which is nice for your fatigue, but it does mean that it's tougher to get through your script. So, these Gigantes aren't particularly fast, but they did actually manage to make it up here, and I think they probably interrupted. So he got off personal regeneration, but if he was planning on casting anything else, which he might have been, because he didn't cast elemental fortitude on himself for that extra 5 fire resistance. And now he's just in melee combat, and then here come the incinerates, and even though, like you can see, is only dealt 4 damage, right, and he's going to be regenerating it, but one of the nice things is that it eliminates his mirror image, right, because any hit eliminates mirror image, which is going to matter a lot for our Gigantes. And God, it's just, come on guys, just like go around, like really, like the pathfinding AI is terrible, but luckily it doesn't matter because Incinerate's great. So yeah, that we probably got lucky on that Incinerate. That was a lot of damage, but again, regeneration I think is a good call. If you're going up against like a bunch of PD or something like that with this small amount of hit points, but Incinerate just does so much damage. So +7 on the roll, I think that is. And then he had a pretty bad roll for his protection, so translated into a lot of Incinerate damage. So anytime that it's like really kind of burst damage, if you don't have a lot of hit points, like that regeneration just isn't going to matter as much. So you can see even 10 fire resistance, not enough for Incinerate. So that's great news. That is exactly what we want to see, right? We lost nothing and we killed a raider who had a lot of gear. And we actually, we didn't find a lot of it, but we found a fire plate. We'll take it. So yeah, this is exactly the kind of results that we're hoping to see. Really good news. We didn't find anything. It would have been nice to find some sites, but hey, we killed an elf, so I'll take that trade any day. Russ bringing a profit out. So yeah. Ursine Management LLC, very nice. And then so this is some of Caelum attacking TNN, which is technically true. So we'll take a look at this since we haven't really seen. This is kind of a massive raiding force, mostly just Spirehorn warriors. He's got an Eagle King in here, which is one of his cap only, slow to recruit, pretty expensive mages. They're really good. I think they get like a 10% random. I'll have to take a look. We can take a look actually afterwards. Anyway, the main thing is that they're Air 4, just like I think always, which is really massive. There are not a lot of recruitable Air 4s in the game. And so he's got some gear on him, some earth boots. So I guess maybe for thugging purposes. He's put iron skin on himself. I don't know, that's kind of odd thugging gear, I guess. That's interesting that they come with a fire plate. That's kind of cool. So I mean, you put a helmet on him. I'm assuming because they don't normally have a helmet, so that's cool. And then this is just going to boost up his defense a lot. Not very damaging, and like 18 defense is kind of meh. With iron skin, like that's good protection, but not really enough. Especially like I don't know. That's still dangerous with how few hit points he has. So, and he has a ton of gems on him. So probably actually more looking at using him as a caster, and then this kitting is probably just defensive in nature, like a just in case measure, not planning on sending him in, I imagine. But it's probably not going to matter. Actually he did bump into a She-Lord, so yeah, that was lucky, and he's an unkitted She-Lord. And let's see, what are these guys? They don't have very good attack skill, although there are a lot of them. So they got lucky, and they harassed him down a decent amount. So we'll see. I think probably these spire horns, there's just a ton of them. And then of course the other nice thing too is that the birds get to fly in real quick, right? So like he got like very little script off. Let's see here. Right, yeah, he got air shield up, and that was it, right? And that is, again, right, you know, the spell singer, this is sort of the bad side of it. So if you're up against like really fast, and I mean, you know, spell singer or not, like birds coming in right away, like you pretty much only get one spell off anyway. So I'm not even sure like how much spell singer is mattering in this particular case, but it certainly isn't helping. So anyway, yeah, the first spell of your thug script is always important, but it's super important, you know, when you're going to be up against birds. And of course, he was not expecting to be up against birds. You know, it's not like Caelian told him that he would be attacking. So, you know, that's why his first air shield first makes sense when, you know, peltasts and etc. And there's lots of archers in PD. So anyway, yeah. So an example of, yeah, birds, you know, flying is effective. And then of course we end up fighting this same group because, yeah, I mean, technically that was TNN's province. You know, yeah, we'll talk more about this in a second. Anyway, yeah, the peltasts, they don't do great. Peltasts actually are not bad against birds, I would say. In fact, maybe like kind of would be my preferred unit to use like against these spirehorns because they have really low protection. The problem is that, again, I'm not expecting to run into birds, so I have these guys set to like run in immediately. And so like what you want to do against birds is projectiles, actually. So like a big old blob of peltasts throwing javelins would eat these guys up. But of course, you know, we're super badly outnumbered and not really scripted to fight the birds. So yeah, anyway, we lose that. He loses one Spirehorn warrior. Thanks, Caelian, for that assistance. Probably wouldn't have recaptured it though, right? And again, that's probably why that thug, the TNN thug, was hanging out, because he was setting up to wipe out that peltast group, right? So that's, you know, we talked about the disadvantages of the peltast group. So regardless of who killed those peltasts, I think they were doomed. But yeah, not thrilled to see this. Yeah, this is our province, not TNN's. So anyway, here's another attack. So more Caelian helping us out, and we caught it because I guess we had a scout there, I'm assuming. Yeah, and so, you know, he's up against minimal PD. I guess this is probably partially why he has so many area seraphs like just running around. So anyway, yeah, they have quite a few gems. So it looks like they mistform themselves, which they don't need a gem for, and then it looks like they're doing liquid body, which I also don't think they need a gem for. Yeah, and then he's bringing out an air elemental, so yeah, that's solid. Not really sure. This one probably did the air elemental. Not sure what the water gems are for. The air gems are definitely for the air elemental. But yeah, not really sure. Kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, one air elemental is probably going to wipe out like 6 PD almost every time, you know, because they got the ethereal and they can trample them and etc. Okay, 2 air elementals. That'll definitely take out 6 PD. Yeah, sure as shit will take out 1 PD, but I mean, everything will take out 1 PD. So yeah, it's kind of an intensive raid. You know, like 3 mages. So, I mean, I don't think these are, yeah, they're not particularly expensive. So, he, yeah, probably has a bunch of them, especially if, like, you know, you just got 30 of them hanging out in some random province. But yeah, I mean, you know, they could be researching. They have decent research. So, but anyway, definitely a strong raiding group. And which we then bump into. So... yeah, it's not ideal. This is our prophet, I think. Yep. So, you know, kind of the dangers of raiding with our prophet. I really don't know how this is gonna go. He has used up, you know, some of his gems, but I think he still does have enough air gems yeah, just like they have the water gems, but they're clearly not scripted to use them currently. So maybe he's planning on like changing their script this turn, and then doing something with them. And then I guess they probably don't. She has enough air gems left to do an air elemental, so but I guess not scripted for it. Although the AI definitely will cast elementals off script. Okay, lesser water elemental, probably off script. So yeah, maybe the gems are just backup, because if the battle goes on long enough, maybe the idea is just like, okay, well, if they get into trouble, they have these water gems available, to dump out like some lesser water elementals. Although yeah, I don't know, maybe that wasn't off script. So yeah, anyway, we did Holy Avenger, which just got some Phantasmal Warriors. I think what did get us in the end. It's kind of sad that our prophet just died to a lesser water elemental. Yep. Water elemental. And was it Phantasmal Warrior? Yeah, water elemental. So yeah, a lesser water elemental. It was lesser, right? Hang on, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's lesser because they're only water 1. So yeah, it's kind of sad that our prophet just died to 1 lesser water elemental, but water elementals are not bad. So yeah, he gets 4 kills, Phantasmal Warriors, and we lose our prophet. Definitely not worth it, especially since we're fighting our ally. So yeah, that's not fantastic. And then we catch Agartha retaking this from some undead. So we're kind of hoping to see, yeah, some pretty standard Agartha stuff. Yeah, and the Mind Blast is pretty good too, because the undead, most of them are mindless, so he's gonna Mind Blast, like, yeah, these whites are not mindless, so like he's gonna focus the mind blasting, these guys here, mind blasters, focus the mind blasting on the kind of the high value targets. He's got 2 casters here. Okay, dumping out. Oh, nice. So yeah, this is the temporary fire gem item, so that's a free elemental that he's summoning, which is nice. Sad that this guy's diseased, but yeah, and I think he did Strength of Giants on these guys, which is probably, yeah, pretty good, because they're kind of glass cannony anyway, so like he's just sort of doubling down, making these guys like even more damage. I'm pretty sure skeletons, no, I think it's just because they have really low hit points. They die like crazy. Any kind of fire stuff like just absolutely rips up skeletons. So yeah, that seems like it was pretty well done, and like, yeah, it just completely rolls over this. So yeah, interesting to see. I kind of always just like to get a sense of like, what is the player doing, what do they have available. And yeah, that seemed pretty competent. He still loses 8 magma children. Like they really don't have, I know it says 8 protection here, but man, it just, they have 17 hit points, but I don't know, they die like crazy. So yeah, I don't think they're particularly expensive or difficult to summon in, so losing 8 of them is not the end of the world. And I don't think he really used up any gems or anything, a few mage turns, but I mean, this is like a Bane Lord and some whites, and some vampires. Like, yeah, it was probably wise to send something serious against this, because this is an independent force that could slap you if you send like 40 peltasts against it or something like that. So yeah, it's interesting to see. And then we lose a just 1 PD, and kind of changing up the rating group here. So he's got a she champion now, and like some of these she warriors, and then just a couple rando guys. So yeah, the rating is adjusting slightly. Probably again in response to like our incinerate groups. Not too worried about it, because we're including our gigantes, and these guys, their defense is good, but they're not sacred, so they don't get the benefit of the bless. So our gigantes actually should be able to tear these guys up no problem. So not too worried about bumping into a group like this. And then yeah, we lost some gold, which is sad because we have luck. And then our patrolling, and then yeah. So yeah, Caelum attacked us. I was pretty upset about this personally, and this definitely leads to the player assures me that it's not bad blood, but we don't get any more advice from the Caelum player from this point forward. Let's just put it that way. So I don't know whether or not Caelian already held this. Probably not. So like at least one of those quote 7 attacks were legitimate in my eyes, and actually took one of TNN's like core provinces. But otherwise, like he hit like these 3. We can't see it yet, but yeah, he hit these 2, and then of course he hit this one, and we bumped twice. And we lost both of our counter rating groups because they were just expecting to bump into 1 PD, and they bumped into our ally instead. He was also pretty upset about these bumps. Not these ones particularly yet, but yeah, spoiler alert, not the last bumps. I don't know. I don't want to dwell on this too much. This was far and away the most unpleasant player-to-player interaction that I've ever had in Dominions, which is sad. I play this for fun. I'm sure he plays this for fun, so it's never a good thing, when you're not seeing eye to eye and, it's, unpleasant. For me, personally, I think that, and this is the thing, we couldn't even agree on who said what, right? Which is just, there's no basis for communication there, let alone actually being functional allies that work together. He claimed that he laid out detailed plans that would prevent bumps. That's not the chat records that I have. So maybe I missed some messages or something. But from what I could see, he just said that he was attacking 7 TNN provinces, which he did technically do, right? He absolutely kept to the letter of the law. He didn't attack any provinces that I held. But for me personally, this is a huge violation of the spirit of an alliance. If you are planning on doing something like this, where you're going to, raid a bunch of allied land that is currently underwater, right? That has currently been raided away from them. That's a detailed conversation, and an exact province list, right? Where it's I'm going to hit this, this, and this. I'm going to stay for a couple turns, or I'm just going to move through in 1 turn, and some planning. It's hey, I'm going to hang out in your territory for a little while to try to catch his raiders and take some pressure off you. You just hang out in your fort and research, right? But there was no discussion like that, at least that I ever saw. It was just hey, I'm going to hit 7 of TNN's provinces, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's all over my lands. This doesn't work out for either of us, which is sad, because I think with more communication, I desperately need research, right? So it wouldn't have been the end of the world for me to sit in my forts, for 2 or 3 turns, do some researching, right? He can hang out. Like I said, this was always going to be an awkward attack for him. I never really understood, when he came and first offered the alliance, again, couching it in that we need to team up against TNN. I never really saw how that was going to be possible. It doesn't really make sense. He doesn't, even if he were to stick with this narrow border, even if we gave him this, right, and it's a 3 province border, his capital is all the way up here, so he's just going to do this huge reach around and capture all of Tiananmen's provinces and then just completely surround us. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And to that end, this pattern, this definitely looks he's completely cut Hinnom off, right? Hinnom would be a great addition, right, for him, right? Hinnom is not particularly far away, right, from his capital, right? This makes a lot more sense, right, for him to pick up. This down here, this makes no sense for him to pick up. That territory makes no sense. This territory, that makes sense for him to pick up. And, he's completely cut it off, right? So to me, this looked he was going to obey obey the letter of the alliance, right? Where he's only attacking TNN provinces, but he's essentially this still having a bunch of his raiders in my lands is equally crippling, right? This is still gem income and gold income and resources, right? That I'm not my recruitment is constrained now. And has been constrained by TNN, but to me, it makes no difference if it's constrained by Caelian or constrained by TNN, right? In both situations, I'm not getting, the gold, the gems, and the resources that I need, to survive in this game. So this is not actually helpful. So to me, this looked like he was going to essentially pretend to help, right? But help TNN choke me out, right? And then like I would release him, and he's done this with a couple other people. Not exactly this, but like for instance, I know that he had a non-aggression pact with Hinnom, and then when I was eating Hinnom, he talked to Hinnom and was like, hey, will you release me from your nap? And of course, like, right, Hinnom would rather that Caelum get his land than me. And so, so he was able to vulture, some Hinnom provinces, right? So to me, this looks like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to help you out. But then like realistically, like, look at this, right? I'm getting completely choked out. So I'm going to lose my capital, like, to TNN, right? And then, he's going to be like, hey, look, you're out, right? Like, you should release me from our alliance. Like, wouldn't you rather that I get Hinnom instead of TNN, right? So that's what this attack pattern looks like to me. Now, I mentioned to him that I outlined at least some of this to him, and he says, well, you're just being paranoid. And I was like, I don't, this is Dominions. It's not paranoid to be worrying about backstabbing. But yeah, anyway, he was very upset about these bumps, and it was essentially, in his mind and in his opinion, I was a terrible ally. And well, I feel the same way. So at this point, I was still trying to coordinate to a degree. Unfortunately, the timing of his attack is also just really bad in terms of real life events. So I'm gonna have a sub not this turn, not next turn. I think 3 or 4 turns from now. And they. They're not on Discord. Like, subbing for a Dominions game is a big ask. The sub is a personal friend of mine, and I just didn't it's a bit much, to ask him to also, do a bunch of diplomacy and trade province lists on Discord with some stranger. I just felt like it was too much to be asking. Like, it was already a huge favor that, he was going to be taking over for me temporarily. But as a result, he's by the time Caelum starts sending me detailed lists of provinces, I'm not there to receive them, right? My sub is taken over. And I tried to outline roughly what my sub would be doing. And anyway, there's going to be more bumping. So yeah, just kind of bad timing, in terms of personal life. But all of this, I was present for. We could have worked this out, in more detail. He chose not to. That's not what he says, but yeah, like I said, if you can't communicate, there's no basis for an alliance. So anyway, that's all I'll say for that. I would say in terms of viewing it, I am not interested in breaking naps in general. I think my reputation is important to me. This player is also just the kind of player that communicates a lot. And I'd mentioned, a few times before, I think he probably kind of annoyed the TNN player because just, constantly in general in the game chat talking about the threat that TNN posed, which is fine, but it was a pretty constant drumbeat. Anyway, this is the kind of player where if I were to break our nap, he would spread that far and wide. So it's just not worth it to me. We're essentially in a Cold War at this point, but we are still technically allied. So, I'm not going to be attacking his provinces, so much like his provinces that he held before. I am going to be trying to recapture my territory. I'm not looking to actually bump with his forces, but there will be more bumps. And to be honest, this move, for example, seems pretty aggressive. And this is, going to be one of the moves that I'm pretty sure pisses him off. We'll see. In my experience, it's extremely difficult to catch armies this way, right? So if his force is moving this turn, especially because he has much better map move, I don't know. I really struggle to catch enemy armies this way. In my experience, it's much better to try to anticipate where they are going to be instead of trying to move where they are. unless you can get it where you have to move through each other, right? So I assumed, like, okay, he raided this province this turn, he's going to be raiding like here, or hopefully deeper, and so I'll send, my guy in to recapture. And part of why I'm recapturing this is because this is there's a gold mine here. This is a really valuable province, right? Like, a lot of these other provinces are kind of worthless. So it's just sort of like, yeah, like, I could have made other raids, right? Like, I could have raided here, but of course, this is like probably the most logical move for him to make. Now, these are flyers, so he could jump over this, but I am not trying to bump with him. So if I move here, there's a good chance he moves here and we bump, right? So I could have moved over here, and that's much less likely to bump. Although, like I said, he did end up taking these as well. And I don't actually have sight on these, and he could be moving into these. So, what he said to me after we exchanged, some words about this business is that, hey, look, I'm just, moving through temporarily. You can recapture them, right, as I move forward. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And of course, still trying to hit TNN with some stuff, right? So this is a pretty similar group. Some upgrades, right? We talked about like this, Star of Heroes, and we've got the Burning Pearl. Didn't get him over 20. The other guy must have had some more experience or something, or I just, did my math wrong. But anyway, 19 attack, so improved, definitely. Oh wait, here we go. I always forget. You do have to look at the weapon, right? This is like his base attack, and then the weapon modifiers actually show up down here. So that's good. It is over 20. So 23, he's actually likely to connect. He has a ring regeneration, which is a big upgrade. So yeah, like this guy, having him, attack closest, yeah, I think this is going to work out. And then this with advance and cast spells, and then, he's got the Gigantes to help him out if they get jumped by a bunch of air elementals. So like, I think this squad is pretty strong, and is going to be able to defeat most and hopefully everything. The only thing is, like, it's how many air elementals, right? So, but it's going to be able to defeat, most of what TNN can throw out, I think. So yeah, this is looking better. So, we're sending that out. Our other groups, we're going to continue moving them on. Yeah. So here we're, going in to capture this. This is just a valuable province. So, I'd like to take it from, this was TNN's, but I mean, at this point, like, it's ours now, if we can hold on to it. And then again, moving into this province, these guys don't really have another move to make, right? Like, this was like Caelian, all these other bordering provinces were already Caelim's provinces. I could just go home and like sit there and research, but like this fort is completely cut off, right? I am trying to do recruitment here. You can see, like, I don't have enough resources now to even get more than one Gigante. I mean, you can only get 2 a turn anyway, but I would like to get 2 a turn. So, like, we need these resources. We need these bordering provinces. Like, this is a gem here. I want to do site searching here. So it's kind of like, yeah, like, ideally, like, he will move out. And I think this one kind of annoyed him because he's like, well, I have nowhere to move. I mean, he could move into his own province. So yeah, anyway, like, and again, like, I normally really struggle to catch armies this way. So I felt that as long as he's continuing to move, he'll move out, I'll move in and recapture. And I won't waste, any turns just sitting around, right? I already site searched. I don't want to move these guys back, I need to get moving, right? Every turn that you waste, like, we're already turn 40. I'm already way behind, I can't afford to just sit around and do nothing. So it's like, yeah, you need to get out of my provinces. But yeah, as they're going to see, at least some of these are going to result in more bumps. So yeah, this is kind of a really unfortunate, we'll have to see as this war progresses, like, how Caelim's, intervention ends up playing out. But like I said, this is really kind of unfortunate. It was just unpleasant as well, which is really almost just makes it worse. I don't mind losing, just like that's the thing. Like, no issues with the TNN player. Like, me and him had been chatting back and forth, about the war. Like, and he'd congratulated me and I'd congratulated him, and like that's the thing, right? We're playing this game together. Like it's a war game, you know. You're gonna fight, like, so if you can't handle that, don't play it. And so, like, yeah, I was having a lot of fun, kind of up until this point. So yeah, that's always sad, but you know, it's still an interesting situation. We're still alive, struggling, and assuming that Caelum does move on, you know, and get out of our lands and actually like deal some damage to TNN, that may end up helping us out, you know, in the long run. So research wise, let's see. Okay, so decided to change things up. Gave up on the conjuration idea. Probably because I felt I just wasn't going to make it there. Thaumaturgy 1 is for communions, for the lizard shamans. Yeah, because to cast all their spells, they're going to need a communion. So yeah, that's what thaumaturgy is for. The blood magic we talked about a little bit before. That's, you know, for the crossbreeding. So, you know, back on that idea. Again, it's low-level research, so it's something we can actually hit. And then, you know, construction 5-6, lightless lanterns is a booster we're looking at, which is going to help our research a lot. And I mean, it really, 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 really needs help. So, you know, this is way like long term. You know, this is like maybe land. But then, you know, of course, we're a thug nation as well. So construction 6 items are going to be useful for our polar marks. So yeah, we'll see. There's a good chance it'll change again, you know, before we actually hit construction 5-6, because it's a long way off with our research as is. Still doing, you know, quite a bit of patrolling, not quite as much patrolling because we have a little more research, but, you know, still like some patrolling on our forts. I think, yeah, we stopped patrolling on, you know, Hinnom, because like now we're surrounded by TNN, or sorry, not TNN, by Caelum. So it's less likely that, you know, TNN, if TNN was planning on jumping Hinnom at this point, you know, he does have to kind of rethink now. So that is definitely, this is a place where, you know, Caelum is helping us a little bit here, sort of. I'm very grudging about that, but more research is nice. And, you know, we're not patrolling here, and the reason we're not patrolling is because of Caelum's intervention. So, you know, have to give credit where credit's due. That is, you know, one situation where it's helping us. For the other forts, you know, that are more on the front line, you know, we still have to do quite a bit of patrolling. So yeah, and then forging thistle mace. So, you know, as I talked about, would like to offload, you know, some of the nature work onto our lizard shamans. So yeah, it's good that we're getting to that. And our scouts, let's see, yeah, you know, still kind of just, you know, nothing too interesting. We did find Miquelin's capital, so it looks like he has most of his cap circle. So, you know, he's not like under current attack or threat, it looks like, probably, unless the fighting's over here. So, you know, mildly interesting. Like I said, still trying to keep an eye on the world at large. Still these area seraphs hanging out. This almost feels like there's some items that will alter scout reports. In fact, I think we even have one. We talked about it a little bit before. Yeah, this guy. So some of them subtract like the perceived size, right? So it'll make the scout report look like there's fewer guys there than actually are. But there are items that push it in the other direction. They're kind of tricky to use because, you know, when you see something like this where it's like, you know, he's got 40 area seraphs just sitting here in a province, and maybe there's a lab here. I don't know if you can tell if there's a lab from bordering provinces. I'll have to look that up. So if there's a lab here and they're just sitting here and researching, then yeah, maybe. It's still a little weird because you can definitely see forts, right, from like bordering provinces, right? So it's like we know there's a fort and a temple here, although we can't actually see a lab. So yeah, maybe you can't see labs. That's interesting. I'll have to double check that. But you'd expect there to be a lab here. And I mean, certainly there's a lab in his capital, unless there are events that destroy your lab. But like, yeah, all of his forts, like there's not a single lab. I don't think so. So I guess the scouts at least can't see labs. So yeah, maybe there's a lab here, in which case there really are 40 area seraphs, but it's just really weird that they would be unprotected. Like, why would you do your researching there? You know, because you never know, right? Especially now that he's attacked TNN. Like this, I mean, okay, granted, if there really are 40 area seraphs there, that's dangerous. But I mean, for me, I would definitely be tempted to attack that because it's just kind of 40 unsupported mages. And if there's no lab there, that's a massive amount of research that he's losing. So it could be one of those items that boosts the scout report. And if you don't have like another unit there to pick, and I don't know the exact mechanics of they are confusing items to use, and I'll do a little research and see if I can get some more detailed information. But it is quite easy to mess it up and cause the scout report to report just a ridiculous number of casters, like even like, cap only. If this was like 40 Eagle Kings, it's just like, well, that's not even possible to have recruited right by this point in the game. So your opponent knows immediately that it's like, okay, that's BS. That's just one of those, boosting items. So yeah, really weird that there's just 40 area Seraphs out here. So yeah, could be an item. Could be that he's doing some researching there. Definitely like not understanding it. But hopefully not going to be our problem. We are still technically allied. I am still trying to work with this player at this point. So yeah, now Caelum is in, and we'll see how that changes things up. Now it's turn 42.